It's probably the most common choice you'll come across in Japanese urban legends. Do you want the blue or do you want the red? What this blue or red object might be changes from legend to legend, and it seems there's no end to what it could be. Maybe it's paper. Maybe it's clothes. Perhaps the most famous version of all, however, is the legend of Akamanto, the red cape. That story goes a little something like this. A young girl was using the toilets at school after dark. She went to grab some paper, but realized there was none. Then she heard a voice from the other side of the door. Do you want red paper? Or do you want blue paper? The girl answered red, and blood gushed out of her entire body, killing her. When the other students heard about what happened, they stopped using the toilets after dark. But one day, unable to hold it in any longer, one student nervously approached the toilets. Then, she heard a voice from the other side of the door. Do you want red paper? Or do you want blue paper? Remembering what she had heard about answering red, the girl answered, blue paper. The blood was drained from her entire body, leaving her a ghastly blue as she died. Akamanto is one of the oldest and most popular urban legends to come out of Japan to date. Rumors of Akamanto became so large at one point that even the police were urged into action. But who or what is he? As the story suggests, Akamanto is a mysterious figure that haunts school toilets. He wears a red cape, which is how he gained the name. Aka, red, manto, cape or cloak. And he kidnaps and murders children. He stands on the other side of the toilet door, and depending on the version, will ask if you want red or blue paper, a red or blue cloak. There is no good answer. Choosing red results in a bloody death, usually by stabbing, and choosing blue results in having the blood drained from your body, leaving you a blue husk. But where did the story of Akamanto first come from? For this, we have to go all the way back to the end of the Meiji era, and it turns out that it may have come from a real, actual person. In February 1906, in Fukui Prefecture, a strange series of murders took place that came to be known as the Ao Getto incident. Ao meaning blue, and getto being what the locals called a blanket. A man was seen in the snowy village of Shimbo, present-day Sakai City, wearing a blue blanket shortly before several dead bodies from the same family were discovered. The man was never found, nor the motive for his crimes ever discovered, and to this day the incident remains unsolved. The story was so strange that it spread all over the country and is thought by many to be the original inspiration for Akamanto. But where the man in the Ao Getto incident wore a blue blanket, Akamanto wore a red cape. Why the change? Well, there's another real-life incident that may have played an even bigger part in his legend. Something that truly created the story we know today. The tale of Akamanto fully came to life almost half a century later, in the 1940s, when rumours started to spread of a man wearing a red cloak who would kidnap children and murder them. He often targeted girls in particular, assaulting them before ending their lives. This story strangely came about because of, it seems, a strange collision of two unrelated worlds. Stories of one young girl's brutal death in the Tokyo area happened to get mixed up with a picture story show called Akamanto that was being performed at the time. The picture show Akamanto was about a magician by the same name who took on a pupil who was working as a shoe shiner. The story had zero relation to the crime in question, but during this turbulent time in Tokyo's history, it was caught up in the aftermath of a burgeoning urban legend, and police were called in to investigate. They even ended up confiscating the show because of the fuss it was creating merely by its name. Yet some others claim the legend goes back even further than its Tokyo origins, and it actually started in Osaka in 1935, with stories of a man wearing a cloak who would appear in people's basements. Supposedly, this story then made its way to Tokyo a few years later, perhaps being mixed with the real incident of the girl who died, and was thus reborn as the legend of Akamanto, a picture story show that was taking place at the same time that shared an unfortunately similar name to what the criminal was thought to be wearing. But wait, there's more. An even older version can be traced back to a story told in schools in Kyoto in the 1930s. And even earlier than that, it existed in the Azumino area of Nagano Prefecture. This is thought to be the origin of the paper version, although originally it was red and white paper, not red and blue. But regardless of where it came from first, or what real-life incidents may have mixed to create the story, it seems Akamanto has existed in some form or another for well over a century now. It has also been suggested that Akamanto became popular during the 1930s and 40s because this was a period when Japan was heavily involved in the war. Military personnel often wore capes, and because children were afraid of them, this fear transferred to the capes they were known for. Everything was in place to create a terrifying monster who would appear to children and offer them a choice of one painful death or another. But as mentioned earlier, there are two main variations to the Akamanto legend. Perhaps the most well-known today is the story I mentioned earlier, where he asked the student in the toilet if they would like red or blue paper. This began as its own urban legend in Nara in the 1930s, although, like I said, the choices were originally red or white paper. And then it spread throughout the country, and it combined with the similar, already existing Akamanto legend and became red or blue paper instead. Makes sense, he's in the toilet. But there's another version, also in the toilet, where he ditches the paper and asks if you want a red or blue cloak instead. Presumably so you can be as fashionable as him. If you try to use an empty school toilet, a tall man will appear out of nowhere and ask, "Which would you like, a red cloak or a blue cloak?" He will remain until you answer him. If you answer red cloak, the man will stab you to death, leaving you to die in the red of your own blood. If you answer blue cloak, the blood will be drained from your body, leaving your body pale and blue. Slight variations on the method of death also exist. Choosing red can result in blood pouring down from the ceiling, or being cut to death by a sickle. Choosing blue can result in hanging until the body turns blue, and in some versions, a hand will come out of the toilet in the color you choose, dragging you down inside. One version in Tokyo sees your entire body turning the color of the paper you chose instead. And in some versions, even if you choose blue, Akamanto will reply, "There is none," and force you to choose red. And like the original Nara version, some variations feature white instead of blue, or even more rarely, sometimes purple. With all that said, if you happen to encounter Akamanto in the toilets, is it even possible to escape with your life intact? In most cases, no, it's not. You're forced into choosing red or blue, and both choices result in death. But there are some versions where you can escape. This can most easily be done by choosing yellow, or another color that isn't red or blue. But this also depends on where you live, and in many cases, choosing another color will simply see you dragged into the underworld regardless. Another common choice is to answer with neither. This will see nothing happen, and is generally considered the best and safest answer. But again, it depends on where you are. Sometimes Akamanto is very persistent and will hang around until you pick a color, one way or another. Akamanto will claim his prize, no matter the color you pick. You never had an escape option to begin with, and your only say in the matter is how you die. At least he gives you that. But what did you guys think of this one? Do you have any similar urban legends where you're from? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.